All right, ladies, part of our history moment this morning is just interviewing y'all about your experiences here at First Baptist Church Waynesville and growing up here maybe, and marrying and moving here, and the history of our church and raising your families here. So you have a lot of interesting stuff to share, and it's those kind of stories that we like to share and hear from you. So I know, Miss Jackee, I talked to you on Sunday mornings, and you shared with me about things, how long you've been here, been a member, when you first remember joining. When was that?
Oh, no, that was in the 40s. I was born in 37. So Mom and Daddy started me, as you know, in cradle roll. So how many, 85 now, so how many years is that?
It's quite a few. I can't do that math in my head, but you've been here since the cradle roll, right?
Yes.
So,
and of course, Daddy, was drafted for the Navy War. So Johnny, my brother, and I went to stay with Nene and my grandparents in Morganton. And when I came back, everybody kidded me about Morganton, and I said, well, we did lock our crazy people up. So,
you've been here all your life?
Oh, yes. Mom and Daddy built a house in 46, and I lived on Brown Avenue, got married, and built right next door, and I'm still there on Brown Avenue.
And this church been part of your life a long time.
Oh, yes, I love this church.
So
yes.
now, Miss Vicki, when was it you remember coming to church? So.
Well, excuse me, the first I remember really well, I guess, was when I was about 5 years old, and Miss Morgan was my Sunday school teacher.
Yes.
And she was very stern. She had everything just so, and very well disciplined all of us. But it was so special the Sunday that I was going to be 5 years old. We marched around and put our pennies in the basket, and if it was your birthday, you brought that number of pennies. And I remember telling my daddy that morning, I need 5 pennies so I can put it in the birthday basket. And he handed me a nickel. And I was just so upset. I said, no, Daddy, I need pennies, 5 pennies. He said, well, it means the same thing. And I said, not to Miss Morgan. So I think I got my pennies and got to march around and put my pennies in.
So your mom's was here at the church when?
My mom's family, she was a Morrow, and that family has been here forever. But she moved into town from White Oak when she was 10 years old, and so that would have been in 1936, and I came along in 1946. So she was in and out of college and stuff, so I'm not sure whether I was ever on the cradle roll or not, but I do remember starting with 5 years old.
And what year you remember you were baptized? You remember?
That was, I remember I went to Fruitland to Bible school camp when I was 8 years old, and I gave my heart to Jesus then. But it was later, when I was 12 years old, Pastor Robinette was here, and he was a large man, and sort of intimidating, I guess. But that summer, he taught the 6th graders in Bible school. And I realized then, that he was not such a gruff person after all. And he made Bible school very interesting. And after that, I decided that I would want to be baptized. And he baptized me here.
Okay. And Miss Polly, you have a little different story. You married and then joined the church. Tell us about that.
Well, Phil and I met at Mars Hill College, and I'll skip over till we got married and moved back here, and we were living with my folks before we got our home ready to be in, and Billy Bishop came to visit us and invited us to come to First Baptist. And that's what we did eventually. But then we moved away. DACO shipped us to California and to Los Angeles area, Philadelphia, and Chicago. And we came back and we joined in '65. Billy had come to visit. But, we remembered that and we came. And so I joined. And Phil had grown up in a military family. And not that all military families are like this, but his family was not a family of faith and having, scriptures and church going and all that. So that was all new to him. But he was baptized in '65 and would also join the church. And our children grew up in this church, Patrick and Pamela. And the church has been a rock, an absolute rock in our lives. Like many others, we did have a tragedy in our life. Our daughter Pamela was killed in an automobile accident just before she was 19. And I know that this church carried us in their heart and in their prayers through all of that. And I don't know what people do, especially in times of real difficulty, if they don't have a church family to rely on and to know that they are lifting them up all day, every day, and in the evening too.
That's great.
And we had a good time as
All of
well.
us,
Served in a lot of places and did so much. The church was the center, of our life as far as socializing and that kind of thing. We did have a group of friends, but mostly church people.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember all of us have raised our families here, and the
Yes.
church has supported us. So Miss Jackie, and
Yes.
y'all remember your kids being in the nursery and coming up through preschool and primary. You remember any of those early teachers and your kids being here in the nursery?
They still talk about some of them. In fact, Dee mentioned the other day about Pastor Heron. He said he had the boom leg, and I said, "How do you remember that?" Dee? And he said, well, he was friends with his son, and they remember things that I don't remember, which we talk about when we're together, which makes it nice to remember all the nice things.
Y'all remember Miss Shook and Miss Edwards and
Oh,
Miss
yes.
Adeline Patrick leaving their kids with them? Y'all remember those ladies?
Yes, yes.
What about pastors? Some of the pastors you remember, some of the things.
Yeah.
Tell Miss Jackie about what Mr. Robinette told you.
Mr. Robinette was a wonderful pastor, which I loved him. And when he came back recently just to visit us, he talked to me, and I enjoyed talking to him. And I said, "Thank you, Pastor Robinette, for marrying me." And he looked at me and he said, "Jackie, I didn't marry you. I performed your marriage."
And so, Vicki, you said Dr. Garner married you and Mike, is that right?
Yes, he did. He did. And he was very special to us and leading us into our marriage. And we've been very happy here ever since.
Okay.
So what recent memories do you have of the church? Anything that you want to share?
Well, they've just been so, even Bill pulled out of the parking place one Sunday morning at the red light, and all of a sudden Bill came running toward me and he said, "Miss Jackie, roll down your window." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "Your tire is rolling down the street." And I said, "What?" But Bill took care of me. He called the police.
Had to stop the traffic.
Had to stop the traffic
So
and
that
everything.
was an exciting
And
Sunday morning.
everybody was so nice to take care of me with my wheel rolling down the street.
So we know, Polly, that you're a great storyteller, so share that story about your papa and growing up on the mountain real quick.
Well, I lived on Phi Top, which is the road that goes up to the Cataloosa Ranch and where the ski lodge is or was. And Papa liked to go to church, and he loved to sing. And he wanted to go to church every Sunday. And every Sunday he'd get ready. And, you know, a man in those days could go in his overalls and put on a jacket or a sweater, and he was ready to go. Mama didn't have church clothes, but that was not the main issue. He would say to her, well, Oli, are you going to church with me today? And she'd say, no, Dan, somebody's got to milk the cow and feed the pig and gather the eggs, and on and on and on. So that's one of the stories that I do remember. And I can remember one time we were going to church, and I went to Bible school. I did come off the mountain for Bible school, and I became a Christian during Bible school at that little Mount Olive Baptist Church there. It's now First Baptist of Maggie. And I was baptized in the creek behind the church. And we remember things as we think it was just for us. So it was not a real pleasant day. It was cloudy. And so they led me into the water, and they dipped me, and they're bringing me up, and the sun came out. And at my age, I thought it was just for me.
Oh, yes.
I thought that was just for me.
Yes, yes.
Miss Jackee, you were baptized in the 1905 church on the...
Yes, the chapel now. I was baptized, and Johnny, my brother, he's 4 years younger than me, and he was baptized a little later. So.
And you remember the pastor that baptized you? That's
Mr.
okay.
Elliott, I think.
Okay.
I wrote it down here.
Well, while you're looking it up, Vicki, you were baptized in this sanctuary, is that correct?
Yes, I was. But I can remember in the old church, I can remember a baptism there, and I can remember going to church in there. And I was so excited when we got our first children's choir, because the music's always been really important to me, and her name was Mildred
Clemens?
Well, she was a Reinhardt then. She wasn't even married, and so pretty. And we had our little preschool choir, and the first night that we sang, we were over in the older church, in the 1905 church. And the ladies of the church took us in there and put the little white choir robes on us with the big black bows. And we stood up there and sang. So that was my first experience with choir. And then along came C.S. Hodge when I was a young teenager. And he took an interest in me because I liked to sing like he did. And he was just the happiest little man. And he didn't do the formal thing. He directed by "On the Old Rugged Cross," and he would do it with the beat. And so, anyway, he took me to Ridgecrest one summer for a music camp, and when I was 13 years old, we didn't have a youth choir anymore, so he invited me to sing with the adult choir, and I've been singing there ever since.
So, well, that's about all the time we have. Thank you, ladies, and we hope all of us have a great bicentennial. And it's unbelievable our church is 200 years old. That's incredible history, isn't it?
It's been a joy to talk about our church
Yes,
and our church family.
Thank you.
Thank you.